Welcome to the Scoop World Order. Wow, the schedule is out. The Bucks are heading to Outson Stadium in Oregon next year. A lot of big stuff is shaking. The Big Ten just got massively more difficult to play because it's like every year they're going out to the West Coast to play either Washington, USC, UCLA. This is going to be unbelievable. I'm so excited for college football. Again, let's get rid of these crappy games. Let's see all big time NFL games every day. I'm really excited to see what we look like against the Ducks next year. The Ducks are really good. But we basically just added 3 top 10 outfits to the Big Ten in Washington, USC, Oregon. So buckle up, eat your Wheaties, and drink some Pepto-Bismol because it is about to get rough for the Bucks. Because again, those 6-hour flights are no joke. We played Washington in '07. They weren't great. Jake Locker was a first-round pick quarterback. He was only a freshman that year, but it was still a war to beat them because that flight it's like almost a game. Like 6 hours, you get a flight on a Thursday and get rolling. So with that being said, as always, we appreciate you guys. Let's get rolling. If you enjoy this content, please click like, give us a little subscription there, and also click the little alert bell. But we're gonna get right into it. Nevada, what are your thoughts on the expansion, the new schedule, the whole 9 yards? This is going to be wild for Ohio State football. Again, I think this is people are making a big enough deal about this because this is going to be a new frontier. This is in Indiana, Purdue, Rutgers, Maryland. We're not adding Nebraska. The first round of expansion, 10 years ago, isn't anywhere near what this is. But talk a little bit about it, and what should Ohio State fans expect going forward?
Well, I don't think there's been enough talk about the fundamental change. I think you hit it right in the head. I mean, we're used to expansion being Maryland and Rutgers and Nebraska and schools like that. And this ain't that. This is completely different. And it's so fundamentally different that I think it almost has to change Ohio State fans' expectations of the seasons, because you can't come into the season expected to win every Big Ten game anymore. You just can't. I mean, when you look at the schedule now, and I'm looking at the schedule, and you've got years where it's like Texas and Penn State and Alabama and Michigan and UCLA and Washington. I mean, it's just crazy. So it's the old be careful what you wish for because you might get it. Well, in this case, we're getting rid of a lot of those games against Youngstown State and some of the other games. But man, the games they're being replaced with are wars, and I think they're going to be so tough. Like I said, as a fan, you've got to change the way you're looking at it because it's so fundamentally different.
Yeah, I think it's people are going to get used to it. I mean, this is not going to be let's just beat Michigan and hope to go to the national championship anymore. Let's just go 11-1 or 12-0 and hope to sneak into the playoff. Now, I mean, there's going to be 2 lost seasons where we're going to have legitimate competition to get into the playoffs because when you're playing Washington, those teams, if they're on the schedule this year, we'd either be push them 3-point favorites or underdogs against Washington, USC, maybe even Oregon. I mean, Oregon, if you go back through our history, we've beaten Washington the last 3 times we played them. A split with SC, we beat them in the Cotton Bowl in 16. JT Barrett's last game, lost to them badly in '09. Or not, '09 was close. '08 was a massacre. They whooped us. Oregon beat us in 21. We beat them in the Rose Bowl in '09. Obviously beat them in the national championship in 14. But, these are generally, this is real competition. These are teams that recruit great athletes. They're teams that have real NILs. They have real coaching staffs. This isn't teams where you just outspend them and crush them like the United States versus anybody basically in a war. So I'm excited to see because, again, you better eat your Wheaties. And that's why I was laughing so hard when people, someone actually said that Urban Meyer was going to interview for the Michigan State job. And I'm like, so he's going to go jump back in the Big Ten with a D-tier school as the Big Ten just got 1,000 times harder than it used to be. Because not only are you playing USC, Oregon, Washington, UCLA, which is kind of like a B or C tier team, but those are 6-hour flights, and again, I know people that not in sports and maybe just fly to Cabo or fly to Vegas or whatever to party and stuff but those 6-hour flights are exhausting. They're tough. Generally again, I played against Washington my senior year in '07. They weren't very good, but we beat them. And they had Jake Locker, who was a first round pick at quarterback, but that was a 6-hour flight. We had to leave on Thursday afternoon. We practiced early in the morning, got on the road, hit the road, took Friday out there. It was kind of like a mini bowl trip, which was kind of fun, but it's only fun when you get ready to win. Like if Washington would have stomped us, it wouldn't have been very fun. So, with that being said, Nevada, who is the most, I want to say, who are the teams that you're most wary of that are joining the Big Ten? Because Washington to me is a sleeping giant. I mean, Oregon obviously is playing well. SC with Lincoln Riley is on that that slope where they're just looking like they're going to get better and better. What teams are you most worried about potentially as threats to winning the Big Ten with Ohio State?
Well, when the easy team is UCLA, then you got some problems, man. Because I'm telling you what, UCLA is pretty good. I mean, they're not
Uh,
USC and they're not Oregon, but they're pretty good. And even getting the second or third best kids in Southern California, you can field a pretty good team at UCLA, and they're always tough at home, always a tough out. Heck, yeah, I remember back in I think it was '78 when they had Irv Eatman and they beat Ohio State in the stadium. Back when UCLA wasn't very good, so look, all those teams are tough. I mean, I still have to kind of pinch myself. We've been talking about expansion for a long time. We were the ones that broke USC coming to the Big Ten, but the fact that it's USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington, I mean, it's almost surreal. I mean, it really does not feel real at all because those, if you were going out and picking teams across the country, and you're like, hey, what teams would you like to handpick that aren't already in a conference that you'd want to go with, like the plums, of the thing? I mean, it'd be pretty hard to pick four better teams than USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington. They certainly would have been my picks. I know I've got a West Coast bias, but boy, they play some good football. They play some challenging football. They generally throw the ball a lot. And great additions to the Big Ten. And like I said, the Big Ten just got exponentially more difficult to run the table, exponentially more difficult to win. And like I said, as a fan, man, buckle up because it's going to be a bumpy ride, I'm telling you.
Well, yeah, and adding USC, UCLA, you land the Los Angeles market. I mean, a lot of people they pan Rutgers and Maryland, but dude, with Rutgers, you get that New York market, man. I mean, so you have New York and you have LA now, as you have their home teams basically. So I think that's a massive add when you can wrap all of Los Angeles into the Big Ten, which it's so weird for me to say, just because Big Ten has always felt like Heartland, Middle America, Midwest type ish deal, and now all of a sudden you're thinking the left coast for being Big Ten. But again, I love it because again, I hate these crappy games, these bye weeks. Like I didn't like them as players. I liked them as a relaxation tool because they're like mini bye weeks and you play Youngstown State, Western Kentucky. But man, those are all going to down the line. We have a super chat. Appreciate you. Why not today? Off topic, but how about CJ Stroud? Do you think he can maintain? I do. I mean, again, CJ, I thought he had a good career at Ohio State. Now I know people say, "Oh my God, look at his numbers and stats," but being a great player at Ohio State it's a two-part equation. It's your statistics, it's how well you play, but it's also what you win. So you could have the most gaudy statistics in the world, but they're empty if you don't win anything. So I mean, he never won the Big Ten, never won a national title, never beat Michigan. So again, you can't put him in that top tier of all-time Ohio State quarterbacks because he never won anything. Now again, he might go down statistically as the best quarterback that's ever played at Ohio State. He might make the Pro Bowl as a rookie. What he's done with the Houston Texans has been absolutely incredible. To be completely frank, I'm starting to win fantasy football because Justin Herbert's off this week. So I hope he has 5,000 yards throwing this week. But I can't express how impressed I am with what he's done so far without Larry Tunsil, without Titus Howard. His two bookend tackles who are both making, I mean, Laramie's probably making 25 million this year, and Titus is probably making 15 million this year. So he has two first round big time tackles. Laramie's a NFL Hall of Fame type tackle, and they've been out the last couple of weeks, and he still is throwing it with a practice squad left tackle. And let's be frank, yes, C tier, D tier type wide receivers. He has a C tier type running back, and he's still outpacing basically every rookie that's ever played. So I think he's been fantastic. It'd be interesting to see if the league catches up to him, if they start scheming a little bit more, if they start pressuring a little bit more. But Nevada, what are your thoughts on CJ Stroud thus far in the league? Me and you, I think, are both stunned that he's been this good. Because again, it's not that we doubted CJ Stroud's talent or ability. It's just that when you get drafted to just a horrendous team, like you expect like the Bryce Young in Carolina kind of results where he's just been beaten to death. He's already missed games. He's been hurt. Because again, you're going, when you get drafted at the top of the first round, you're by definition going to the worst team in the league. And if you're not a big quarterback, like, I mean, Anthony Richardson already's missed time. Bryce Young's already missed time. So CJ's hanging in there, getting the ball fast. So he's not getting killed. But your thoughts on Stroud so far in Nevada?
Yeah, he's way exceeded my expectations, and for all the reasons you said, he's going just a bad Houston team, and a team with the tackles hurt. Frankly, I thought he'd be broken in half by right now, and probably being a guy kind of limping into the season, and he is just doing great. He seems to be getting better each and every week, and that's I couldn't be happier for the kid. You're always rooting for the ex-Ohio State players to do well, and CJ is one of those ones. Good kid, never caused any problems at Ohio State. Always tried his best, and really, I think he's exceeded everyone's expectations. Even I'm sure the people in the Texans, while they hoped that a quarterback could be this good, they never dreamed he'd be that good that fast. So yeah, no, big surprise, A+ performance by CJ, and I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, I don't know how you can grade him anything else at this point. I think he has the second most passing yards in the history of the NFL. He has the best start for pass attempts versus interceptions in NFL history. So he's not turning it over. He's making average receivers look good. Receivers that nobody really wanted look good. Because again, like, he doesn't have Justin Jefferson. He doesn't have Jamar Chase. He doesn't have a guy who's like, that top 5 monster receiver that is throw him the ball and he'll go get you 50 yards after the catch. Tank Dell's kind of that. His buddy from Houston went in the 3rd round to Houston, but I mean, they don't, when you don't have the Devontae Adams or that monster out there he's always going to be open, he's always going to catch it, he's always going to run after the catch. Like, you kind of judge quarterbacks because that. Because I don't know, I think Kirk Cousins is a very good quarterback, but with Justin Jefferson, he's out of this world good. Because Justin Jefferson, he gets open by a lot. He runs after the catch. He gets 1,000,000 yards, and kind of is what it is. Like, I don't know how good Brock Purdy is. Brock Purdy, he's got McCaffrey, he's got Ayuk, he's got Kittle, he's got Debo Samuel. So I don't know how good he is. He's got Trent Williams, he's got Kyle Shanahan calling the plays. So, again, I always look at the infrastructure and what would that quarterback do on a better infrastructure or a worse infrastructure. And Brock Purdy, I think, has the best infrastructure in the NFL right now. And he's playing like a guy that, as crazy as it is, he could be in the MVP conversation, because San Francisco is going to be a really tough out going forward. Nevada, we're on to Maryland. Mike Locksley, I think he does a really good job. He got Ryan Day all gassed up a few years ago when he turned in Chase Young for cheating. Chase got suspended, and then Ryan Day ran the score up in a major way in 2019. But what do you expect on Saturday? The Turtles come to the Shoe. Is it going to be a stomping like most project? Is it, we're about 19-point favorites. But what do you project on the Saturday versus the Turtles?
I think it's going to be an interesting game. I think the Ohio State feels like they have something in the run game against Maryland, and they feel like they can take advantage of them, and that generally doesn't lend itself to a high score. But I just have a feeling this game's going to be higher scoring. I think it's going to be a competitive matchup for sure. I'm not seeing a blowout, but I know that Ryan Day's got the boys juiced up. I think they've got them schemed up, and I think the attack's going to start on the ground. And so I think Trey Henderson and Chip are both going to have big games against the Maryland rush defense that I don't think is going to be able to hold up on Saturday. So I'm expecting a big effort.
Yeah, I think, God, I mean, do you think we cover Nevada?
I think it's going to be close. I think it's one of those games where, I think there's probably, if you have to bet the game, to me, the bet's the over. But, as soon as I say that, the game will probably end up being 7-3 or something like that. But no, I see it being a higher scoring type of affair. And like I said, this is a great challenge for the Ohio State defense. Ohio State defense, one of the best defenses in the country so far, coming up against a very, very talented Maryland offense, and huge challenge for them. And we'll see how Knowles and the guys step up to it. But I think they're going to acquit themselves quite nicely. They like challenges like this, especially against a team that likes to pass it as much as Maryland does, that really plays to Ohio State's strength. They're in the back seven, and I think that's advantage Ohio State.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating. I think that these guys have given up 3 sacks all year. We've had trouble getting sacks all year. I think that it's interesting how much we talk about cage rushing on BuckeyeScoop.com, and then they interview the defensive lineman yesterday, and they talk about how Jim Knowles' goal this week is to cage rush the quarterback. And what does cage rush mean? It means, well, Jack and JT, who are two of the best defensive ends in the country, they, are told to cage rush. Cage rush, when people are like, oh, why do they bull rush every time? Well, it's like, that's what they're told to do. They're told to bull rush, cage the quarterback. Cage means keep him in the pocket. You got your little pocket right here, and you want to cage him in. You want to have the ends, keep the edge and the width, and you want to keep the tackles so there's no lanes for him to run. Because, with Talia, I mean, he is, or whatever it is, Talia, Taulia, to his brother. I mean, he is a quick little dude. He can run. He's not going to want to run. They don't want to run him because he's like a lot like his brother. He's not real big, and if he gets hit hard, he's probably going to go out of the game. But you want to keep him caged in, but in the pocket. You don't want to give him a bunch of open running lanes. Again, people are obsessed with sacks. People are obsessed with these amazing rush moves that create huge rush lanes. But you watch the New York Jets against Pat Mahomes, man, and they were doing all those crazy rushes, and they were losing contain. Mahomes was killing them. Mahomes at the end of the game runs for 40 yards when he needs 35 on like 3rd and 31, runs for 40, slides, gets down because they weren't disciplined in their rush lanes. And that's why they lost the game, because Mahomes scrambled. So you got to keep this guy in the pocket. You want him to throw the ball. You want our DBs to make plays. Again, these guys are the best skill guys we've seen all year. They're much, much, much faster than Notre Dame. They're much better than Notre Dame at the skill positions. But that being said, it's not that I don't sweat it, but our guys have to go against Marvin and Emeka every day. So they're not going to be scared of anybody when you have to go against those, terrorizers, because Marvin and Emeka they're terrorizing if you have to cover those guys every day. So, if they've ever had nightmares, it's probably about those guys every day in practice more so than anyone they're going to play on a Saturday. But these guys can run. They get open. I think their scheme's good. Led by Mike Loxley. Josh Gaddis is a guy that, we hate. Ryan Day hates. Ohio State hates because he literally called us a bunch of soft 7-on-7 players. So, I mean, you don't need any more gas on the fire, but, when you're playing a guy like Josh Gaddis who doesn't respect Ohio State and he hates Ohio State, I think it doesn't hurt the situation. But when you look at their depth chart, it's interesting. They got transfers from Florida State up front, Tennessee. These guys play hard. And it was interesting because Marvin Harrison literally said yesterday that Maryland had the best secondary they played against last year. And then when it was pressed, is better than Georgia? And he said, yeah, the cornerbacks were, because, one of their corners last year went in the first round of the league. So these guys, they get after it up front. And the thing I always tell people when you play a team like Maryland is those guys want to go to the NFL. They want to be high draft picks. So this is the money game. This is the Super Bowl. This is the Senior Bowl. This is the NFL Combine on Saturday for these Maryland guys, because scouts want to see how they do against Marvin Harrison. How do they do against Emeka? How do they do against Ohio State's offensive line or defensive line or whatever? Because that's how do you do against JT Tuimoloau? How do you do against Jackson or Mike Hall? So this is a game where a lot of these guys are going to be gassed up, ready to go, and our guys have to match their intensity. Nevada, we got one more tomorrow, and we got 2 more sleeps before the game. We have Thursday Night Football. What are your thoughts on, as we wrap this thing up, what are your thoughts on the future of Justin Fields? Because that's going to be the kind of the keynote tonight when they play the Washington Commanders, who frankly have Terry McLaurin and Chase Young chasing Justin all over the field. But what are your thoughts on the future of Justin in Chicago? Is he done? Does he get traded? Does he get re-upped? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine a scenario where Chicago doesn't end up with Caleb Williams, and I think when that happens, I think that probably ushers in the end of the Justin Fields experiment. And there's always got to be a scapegoat, and the scapegoat's either going to be the starting quarterback or the head coach. So one of those two is going to go. And in this case, I think it's probably going to be Fields, because I think Caleb Williams gives you hope, a new start, a new thing, and Justin Fields is like the old toy that you got for Christmas that you've played with it, and then you just kind of cast it aside to the island of misfit toys, and you grab the shiny new transformer and hope that that turns into something wonderful. So yeah, that's my prediction. But maybe sometimes those situations are the best for Justin because Chicago's a mess, and maybe getting him out of there and getting him into situations with a little bit more stability would be the best thing that could happen to him.
Yeah, if I was the GM of Chicago, I would try to trade Justin Fields for whatever I could get this year. I mean, because they're tanking, they're going to be 0-17 or 1-16 or whatever. But and it's not Justin Fields' fault. But when you're rebuilding, I think that the smartest thing to do is do that full tear down, like get rid of everybody, start from scratch, reboot. And when you get Caleb Williams, you kind of start, you have that 5 year timer where you have a guy under control under 4 years of his rookie contract and then 1 year of his player option. So, Justin Fields next year is in the last year of his rookie deal. And then you have to decide, do we give him the big extension where he's making 40 million a year like Carr is in New York or some of these other spots, or do you make him play out his 5 year option, which can kind of rub guys the wrong way because it's not disrespectful, because I mean, anytime you're paying someone $20 million, it's not a bad deal. But I just think that in the league, when you're rebuilding, it's better to do a full teardown, get Caleb Williams at the top, get that 5 year window opened up, and then you could maybe take Marvin Harrison too, because right now, as of today, they're projected as the top 2 picks. This is an exceptionally strange draft because there's a chance that Chicago and Arizona, between those 2 teams, could control the top 4 picks of the draft. Like there's right now, as of this moment, Chicago's got 1, 2, and Arizona's got 3, 4, and they both have compensation from other clubs. Based on if Carolina wins or loses, then that controls Chicago's second pick, and then Arizona. I'm not sure who their second one is, but again, it's just it's something interesting where you could have 2 teams that have a lot at stake to get Caleb Williams. And I think that the Bears are done with Justin Fields. I think that it's not Justin's fault, just because they're so poorly run. They're such a poorly ran organization. He has no offensive line, minimal infrastructure around him. It's really hard to compete. But I think Caleb Williams is, like you said, that shiny new toy, and I think that that's the direction they're going to move in. Well, any final thoughts, Nevada? We got one more of these before the foot hits the ball Thursday Night Football tonight. We'll have a big thread on BuckeyesGroup.com. But any final thoughts, Nevada?
Now, just I'm telling you, Ryan Day's putting the hammer down on the boys. The boys are going to be ready. It's going to be extra saucy on Saturday. So watch for that. Watch for a little extra little rub it in if Ryan gets a chance to do it, because he wants this one.
Totally agree. I've heard nothing about this thing being gassed up. With that being said, as always, we appreciate you guys. Ryan Day is getting these guys cranked up, ready to go. Really excited to see what these guys got against Maryland. Homecoming weekend. Any of you Bucks that are coming in for homecoming, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you guys are doing. Where you guys are watching from. Shout out where you guys are watching from. As always, I love when you guys do that. Who needs to step up against Maryland? There's a lot of interesting names. Is it Marvin Harrison? Is it Emeka? Davison Igbinosin? There's a lot of guys out there that got to step up and play big this game, because these guys can score. But with that being said, as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much. If you could leave us a like, click subscribe, and also click that little alert bell, we will appreciate that as always. With that being said, I hope you guys have a great night. Football is here. Football for like the next, I don't know if it's like 48 straight days there's football. So enjoy it. Football season is the best. But as always, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I will see you guys on BuckeyesScoop.com. If you guys aren't members of BuckeyesScoop.com, it's time to join. We are in the absolute mecca of football season, and the board is absolutely on fire. We would love to have you as a member of our cool little club. We appreciate you guys so much. That being said, go Bucks.